Heyo, welcome back to the Undrafted and Unqualified Fantasy Football Podcast. Anthony, back once again. We got another video for you guys today. Um, you know, I'll get to it in a second. Hope y'all are doing well. Hopefully, we're getting to some warmer weather. But we got a little bit of news today to start with. For once, we got some small news, but could matter, and we'll see. Actually, I'm gonna add that to the doc real quick. I think that's important. But okay. So, first piece of news. Kirk Cousins to Vegas. Why does this matter? It could mean he starts for the time being. And I know that Kubiak wants to put him into a position or bring in a rookie QB into a position where they're working under a veteran, learning a little bit. And that's important because, we'll see. Maybe Cousins gets some weeks and gets some time as the starting quarterback. And that's good news for Bowers. I think it's fine for the rest of the offense. I'd like to see Mendoza get the start right away, but I don't think Mendoza's the best quarterback prospect we've ever seen. I think he's a great one, but we'll have to wait and see. We might have to be a little patient on him. So as I said, I wanted to do that first, get that out of the way, do a little bit of news, intro and news, and then we'll get into what we're doing today. So it's good weather. It's a lovely day to be here, and with going from cold to warmer weather, today we're going to be talking about teams who were cold and the following year getting hotter. So what I'm going to be doing is I am going to kind of go over basically why it matters, like teams we think could make the jump from last year to this year and why it matters for fantasy, okay? So I'm going to start by giving you the recipe for success. I'm going to use some examples, talk about why it matters, okay? And then we'll get into some of those teams I like a lot. So the recipe for success, all right, you have a new and a good coach. You need a good coach for this to be possible, okay? This is what we're seeing the last 2 years. A new and good coach comes in, and it helps a lot, right? There's a lot of teams that don't make the jump. Aaron Glenn, prime example, not a great coach, not a great situation in general in New York. Jets couldn't make the jump. So, that's one situation. You need the new and good coach. It can bring a culture shift too, which can always help as well. The mentality, that's a big part of sport as well. A good offensive system, this is very necessary as well. If it is a defensive minded head coach, you got to have a good system. You got to be able to create something in the offense, and it can't just be pure defense. And a lot of these coaches are the offensive minded coaches, and it works out well. The other thing that matters a lot is to have a good quarterback and a team around him. So it can't be a terrible defense with a good QB. It's got to be a pretty well-rounded team. You're spending some money in free agency. You're making moves. You're not afraid to make moves. Got to have somebody there who's at least capable. You can't have a bottom-of-the-barrel quarterback. And sometimes these quarterbacks make the jump too, and then they're a good quarterback. So it's not necessarily that the quarterback was already good and it just builds the team around him. It's a good quarterback in the situation they make the jump in. So, maybe the coach comes in and gets the full potential out of them type thing. All right, why this matters for fantasy? Well, you bring in good offense, things improve. There's more scoring opportunities, more points for fantasy, right? More points around the board, more quarterback points, more running back points, more wide receiver, more tight end, everything, right? So that matters for fantasy a lot. All right, so the teams I want to bring up first are the teams that have done it these past few years. So we'll go back to 2 years ago first. The Commanders, they bring in Dan Quinn. They draft Jaden Daniels. So, let's follow the recipe, right? New coach, good coach, Dan Quinn. He's a good coach. He's defensive minded, couldn't always get it done. It didn't really work out for him I believe he was in Dallas. Or maybe he was the DC. I don't know. Sorry, but it was I know he was in Atlanta for some time. It didn't work out. But he's a good coach. Comes in. It's a good system. Okay, culture shift. That's what they needed. They had a solid defense. They had a good offensive system. Honestly, couldn't tell you who the offensive coordinator was. Honestly, actually, it might have been Cliff Kingsbury. Now that I think about it, it might have been Kingsbury, and he's a great offensive mind. So that works out very well. Okay. Two good things right there already within the head coach, the offensive coordinator, A good QB. Jaden Daniels is a great QB. He came in as a rookie and was great right away. And it was a good team around him. He had, he had Terry McLaurin. He had Zach Ertz, who had a great year. I forget who the running back was that year. It wasn't Bill or anybody though. They had somebody a little bit better. Regardless, you have Terry and Zach Ertz who are doing a lot for you, and Jaden Daniels doing a lot on the ground himself too. It's a recipe for success. So the Manders made the jump. They went to the conference championship. You got the Chargers too. They bring in Jim Harbaugh. They were actually pretty bad the year before in 2023. 2024, Jim Harbaugh's there. You know you already got Justin Herbert there. You got some pieces around him. You got Keenan Allen was there, Quentin Johnston, a couple good players who were able to make a little bit of a jump and do a little something. So that's big too. Just creating a good system. Again, I'm focused on Jim Harbaugh for the Chargers, and Herbert was already good. We knew that. Going back to last year to this year, I mean, this is even bigger. So we look at the Bears. Ben Johnson goes in. He's a great offensive mind. We knew this coming out of Detroit. He's a great offensive mind. He's a good coach. Big culture shift. I mean, the Bears were very good this year. They have a good offensive system, right? Now, under Ben Johnson, they have Caleb Williams. There's a lot of pieces around him. Caleb Williams, first overall pick, and he did make a jump this year. He still can improve on accuracy, but he made a jump. He was much better this year. The team around him, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, much improved O-line, DeAndre Swift. Like, they built a lot of pieces around him. They focused on the offense, and it was a recipe for success. They were very close to making the conference championship this year. And I think it's very clear that this was a good team, and they brought in the pieces, they drafted the pieces. That's huge. That's huge for the system. We look at the Patriots. New good coach, Mike Vrabel. We like his culture. He was great with Tennessee. It was kind of a shock to me when they let him go. They bring in a culture. They sign a ton of guys. Defensive end, they did good work on the defensive side. The offensive system, they bring back Josh McDaniels. Again, it's a familiar face, though, and he's had a good system in the past. Drake May's improved. He's getting better. Year two, good QB. He was the second in the MVP race. He's arguably second best player in the league for that, right? Then you got a good team around him. You bring in Stephon Diggs. You have Ramondre Stevenson. You draft Travion Henderson. You got Hunter Henry still there. Kayshon Boutte going into another year who's looking pretty good. So you drafted Kyle Williams. You're just bringing pieces around him. The O-line improved drastically. Drafted Will Campbell in the first. You drafted Jared Wilson, started him. So it's a young O-line. You signed Morgan Moses. Good team. They went to the Super Bowl. So we're seeing these moves, and they're leading to jumps. One more for you. The Jaguars. Liam Cohen, offensive mind. We knew he was a good coach. It was kind of a weird situation with him almost going back to Tampa, but then he ends up in Jacksonville. Weird situation. But he's a good coach. He's a weird dude. Duval. Whatever. That doesn't matter. It doesn't take away for how good of a coach he is and the offensive mind he has. He was great. He got the best out of Baker. Baker threw for, 40-something touchdowns that year with him. Good situation, good offensive system. They have the pieces around him. Trevor Lawrence was once a first overall pick, so he just hasn't been unlocked yet. This year, it seems like he improved drastically, and he's only 25 years old. Then you have Travis Etienne. You got Bashal Tutin they drafted in the backfield. You got Travis Hunter they drafted. You got Brian Thomas Jr. again. You got Parker Washington who came out of nowhere. They traded for Jacoby Myers. Like, there's a lot of pieces here, and these are things you like for these teams to make the jump. So I'm going to list 3 teams, and obviously you had to be bad the year before, but I'm going to list some of these teams that I like going into this year, and we're going to follow that same recipe, and we're going to see how it works out. So there's a recipe for you, but we could see more points for these offenses going into this upcoming year. And it matters for fantasy because if the team can make a jump, so can the fantasy points for the team as a whole. So I have 3 for you. I have my favorite, my second favorite, and more of a wild card, okay? So my favorite team, following this recipe, I like the Raiders. I really do. And keep in mind, too, we haven't had the draft just yet. So we need to factor that into. Teams could do stuff in the draft, so I'll bring that up as we go. But, new and good coach, Clint Kubiak. He just won the Super Bowl. This is a great coach, great offensive mind. He was very productive with the Seahawks. They won the Super Bowl. the culture will shift out of Pete Carroll, and it didn't work. The culture was a little weird. Geno Smith, he's gone. So the offensive system should work. Kubiak is a good coach. He's got a good offensive system. I like that a lot. The QB, so you need a good QB, right? It's right now Kirk Cousins, but they're probably going Fernando Mendoza, pick one. So I like that. I like Mendoza here. And this is the first one where I can say, like, I think they're going to do something in the draft where it matters for this episode. But I think they go Mendoza. And even if they let him sit for a little bit, like a few weeks, they got Kirk Cousins, who's not terrible. So maybe the jump doesn't happen just yet. But I like Mendoza. I think Mendoza could come in and be productive enough to increase their chances in, winning games, one, and two, to also improve their fantasy points. And then the team around him, too. Mendoza's coming in with Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers. There's not many pieces outside of that, but what are they going to do in the draft? They got some high picks in the second round. We'll see what they end up doing, but I think that's solid. They improved the defense, so overall the team should be better. They signed a lot of guys. You signed the O-line's improving too. You signed Tyler Linderbaum to a huge deal, so you're trying to protect him. That's very much clear in what they've been doing. And some of these guys could also make the jump. Some of the receivers they drafted, Jack Besh, the other guy, I forget, Tennessee wide receiver from last year. I forget his name. But he's going to be going into year two. So you have two guys going into year two. You have Trey Tucker, who is okay, but we'll see what they do in the draft. They could still do more. There's still a Stephon Diggs out there. So I think they're not done. I don't think they go in with this exact receiving core into next year. I think they still improve. And they still have Bowers. They still have Ashton Genty. It's a good situation. The O-line's improving. New coach. I like the chance of the jump. And part of me thinks this might just be more exciting than it is my favorite to actually make the biggest jump and the biggest impact for fantasy. But I like the situation, and I'm a big fan of Kubiak. I think he did great work with Seattle, and I think that's the biggest reason here why I'm so big on them making the jump. So we'll see. Still remains to be seen. But what could this mean for fantasy? Points, right? Genty. I think that's good for him. I think it's good for Bowers. Those two guys specifically. I'm keying in, like I'm eyeing on them. I'm seeing, where they going in drafts. I'm keeping an eye because I think these two guys could have very productive years. And for Bowers specifically, Kirk Cousins doesn't matter. He'll get the ball. So, I think this could be great for these two guys specifically, but I think this team could make the jump next year. My second favorite is the New York Giants, right? Let's go over it. New and good coach. They got John Harbaugh. Culture shift. I think it's going to be great for the team. I think Harbaugh is a very well-respected coach around the league. I think it's a great situation. The offensive system's a little questionable. They brought in Matt Nagy. I don't like Matt Nagy. He wasn't very good with the Chiefs, even Patrick Mahomes under Andy Reid. So I hope Nagy doesn't kill this, but I'm trying to look past it because they have a great QB in Jackson Dart. He's young. He looked good last year. He's got Malik Neighbors. They brought in Darnell Mooney. They brought in Isaiah Likely. They have Cam Scatterbo. They have Tyrone Tracy. They have some pieces here that I think it could work out very well for them. Theo Johnson's still there as a second option at tight end. Darius Slayton is still there. Like they've developed a very well-rounded offense. I think this could work out very well. My only concern is Matt Nagy, and I'm hoping that John Harbaugh kind of cancels that out. And I think this could work out very well. And what does this mean? I think for looking at Mendoza might not even start right away, which is why I don't want to mention Mendoza as scoring a lot of points. But, Dart will get the start right away, and he's got the rushing attribute too, right, as a quarterback, which we love. So, Dart, more points for Dart. I think Neighbors can score a ton this year. The injury concern, hopefully he's good for week one. Same thing, Scatterbo, I hope he's good for week one, but better offense, more touchdown opportunities. I think Isaiah Likely is a sleeper too. So I think those four guys should be drafted, and you should be excited about those picks. I think Scatterbo may be going too high because people just love Scatterbo. But the rest, keep an eye on. I like Isaiah Likely a lot. I think out of this group in particular, deep dart throw, deep target. Right, he's not going to be going high in tight ends, but I like that situation a lot too. The Giants are my second favorite because I think the Raiders. I just like the coaching situation better with Kubiak, and I just worry. I worry with Matt Nagy coming into the Giants, which is why I put them down. But in terms of the number of guys who could all increase fantasy points, I like the Giants more because there's four guys I just mentioned, and maybe Darnell Mooney actually does a little something and could be somewhat useful too. I'm not banking on that. I'm not bringing him up in that, but just in case, if you want to take a shot on Mooney down the line, I wouldn't hate on you for it as like a last round pick. But yeah, I like it for Dart, Neighbors, Isaiah Likely a lot, and Cam Skadbu. Then my wild card team for you, the Tennessee Titans. Why is this a wild card? Because they were really, really bad this year, and they didn't bring in enough, in my opinion. They're a wild card. Let's look here, though. Let's go through the recipe one more time. New and good coach, culture shift. They brought in Robert Saleh. I like him. I like him as a DC, and we've seen time and time again the Jets are just not a good organization. So I think Saleh could actually be decent. I think Dayball is a great offensive mind, and I like that pairing with Cam Ward a lot. I'm a believer in Cam Ward, but I really like this coaching pair. I think it could work out very well. The offense and the defensive mind, and I think it could be pretty exciting for Titans fans. They rebranded, so the culture shift is going to happen anyways. They got a new logo, ugly logo. The jerseys are pretty cool though. Then the offensive system, it should be pretty good under Dayball. You have a good QB. I'm a believer in Cam Ward, and the team around him. They bring in Wandale Robinson. They brought back Calvin Ridley. You got Alec Iamaner going into year two. Chimere Dike going into year two. You trade for Daniel Bellinger. I don't know exactly why, but Gunnar Helm going into year two. A lot of these guys going into year two. You also have. There's a chance they take Jeremiah Love at 4. That's awesome. That's really awesome. And that matters for Jeremiah Love because while we love him for being the 3-down workhorse anyways, it matters that they take the jump and he gets scoring opportunities. So I like this a lot if Jeremiah Love were to go there. I think it would work out. I think Wandale is in a position where he could score a decent amount of points again too. I'm actually I'll find that in a sec, but I'm curious where Wandale is going in drafts. But yeah, let me pull this up. Give me one sec. PPR rankings. We'll go wide receiver. Wandale Robinson is going 37. He's going outside of the wide receiver threes. Yeah, I like that a lot. If Wandale was going a little high, I'd probably pump the brakes, but that feels like a smash spot for him. He was so good as the only guy with New York, and now he gets Dayball to come over. He has Cam Ward. He has a situation where there's no receivers there right now. I think there's a chance the Titans could do something else as well. They're a wild card more so for the reason we haven't seen it from Ward like we have with Dart. We haven't seen it from the coaches yet, truly. Like Kubiak and Harbaugh, we've already seen it. I like the pairing, but we haven't seen it. There's not a ton around him. There's no Neighbors. There's no Brock Bowers. It's just Wandale Robinson. Yeah, could you get Jeremiah Love? Yeah, absolutely, but that's no guarantees. So we gotta kind of wait for the draft until we really key in on the Titans being that team that could make the jump. But yeah, I think they're a wild card, and I think it's possible. I think it's possible. If you like it, you like it. I'm one of the guys. I think probably few who kind of likes it, but I'm a fan of that, and I think this all matters for fantasy. More points for Wandale, a lot of points for Jeremiah Love, points for Bowers, Genty, Malik Neighbors, Cam Skadbu. So I think this is just quick episode today, but I think it's fun. I think it's important to bring up too. It doesn't have to be a long one, but it's important to keep in mind when you're considering your drafts. If you make your own rankings, consider this as well. So a fun one today. Very quick, very simple. I'm big on the Raiders. I hope it works out with Kubiak there. The Giants are my second favorite, and the Titans are a wild card. I think these teams could make the jump, and we saw it with the recipe the last 2 years. There were 2 to 3 teams both years. So we'll see. I think at least 2 of these teams make the jump. That's my prediction. So yeah, we'll see. But I think it's important to keep in mind for fantasy football. And yeah, hopefully this video helps you out with your rankings. We'll be back. I should be back with Vinny next week. We have episode 50, and we'll be doing a mock draft. It's been a minute since we've done a mock draft, so we should be doing one together next week. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. And yeah, we'll have some fun with that, but that'll be episode 50. But yeah, we'll keep this short and sweet, fun episode for me. Hope it helps you guys out. We'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.